My name was Anne Matthews before I got married, and it's now Anne Park. I've lived in Hill Green since 1947, apart from 2 years in Glossop when I first got married and a year in Handforth when we moved from Glossop to Handforth, then back into Hill Green. I was born in 1945 and I lived in Bradford Hall Lane ever since I can remember. I have a sister she's 77 now, and a brother who's a year younger than me at 74. My father he was a carpenter and he had a shop in Sale, and my mother was a nurse starting off in Macclesfield, and then she went to Cheadle Royal. They knocked on the door one day and said, "Would you like to come and work at Cheadle Royal?" And saying it was down the road, she said, "Yes, please." From what I can remember, I think we've almost had a car, a van it would be, but my father also had a bike with a little motor on it, so maybe that's preceded the car for a few years. We had lots and lots of lovely, fields round us all the time, so we hadn't really far to go to play. Far as toys, my father used to make us wooden toys for Christmas, and as I say, we never went short, but you only got cycles and things like that on your birthdays or at Christmas. You didn't kind of go and get them midway through the year. Just not done those days. As far as playing out, we'd play out from morning till it got dark, and but we had no worries, and our parents had no worries where we were and things like that. Holidays, we used to go down to my grandma's in Snowdonia, which was very handy, and it was nice when we could take friends with us, and we'd be there most of the summer holidays, and it was just wonderful, our childhood. Hobbies, can't remember. Oh, stamp collecting, that was one of my hobbies. And when we used to go down to my grandma's house in Wales, we'd sit and take registration numbers of cars, anyhow, and then play in the river and things like that. But we had a local doctor on the main road up here, on Wilmerslow Road. There was a doctor there, but I can't remember going, because being a nurse, my mother told everybody what they had: measles, chicken pox. So nobody really knows what they did have, this is it. I mean, mumps, obviously, you could tell mumps, and that's about it, I think. We used to go to Long Lane Church, because it was up the road, and, it was just everybody from this area, from Long Lane, everybody just went to the church. It was, when you look at photographs of the Harvest Queen, you can see how many children did go. There was thousands, this is it. Really, until I think I was about 15, I didn't think about boys in those days at all. And then I joined Hill Green Youth Club. It changed. And on a Sunday afternoon, we'd go to church in the morning. And on Sunday afternoon, we'd all sit on the wreck in Hill Green, which is now the public hall field. And one girl, fortunately, had a little record player. So we used to kind of take that with us, and we had the time of our lives. And youth club, I think it was Friday or Saturday, or both nights perhaps. But as I say, the vicar in the school holidays, the vicar would let us go in the church hall because he could trust us. I dread to think what it'd be like nowadays if he let them in, And we never had any problems at all, and it was just fantastic. Got married in 1968, and because I lived in Bradford Hall Lane, the church was St Andrew's in Cheadle, and I just wish, if I could turn back the clock, I would have got married in St Catherine's, because that's where I'd been for years, And Mr Lucas, who was the vicar then, and Mr Culliford would have allowed it, I know that, I used to go to Cheadle Electoral School from when I was 5, so it'd be 1950. Because my birthday's November, so we got in September just before, that's right. And stayed there for 7 years. Didn't pass my 11 plus, unfortunately. I think there was 2 in the whole class of 40 passed. So I went to Broadway, and it was great. And then I went on to the grammar school from Broadway for 2 years. My husband was a policeman in Glossop. I met him at Bredbury Hall. And so when we got married, of course, we moved to a police house in Glossop, but I hated it. It was cold, right at the bottom of the Snake Pass. So then he got a chance of moving to Manchester Police, And so we bought a house in Handforth, stayed there for 2 years, no, just 1 year in fact, not 2, it was 1 year, and then we moved to Mona Avenue and stayed there then until 1978, when we moved to this house in East Avenue. As I say, so both children were born in Mona Avenue, and then we moved across here. One of the main reasons was moving was to go to Etchell School, because otherwise we'd had to go to Bradford Hall School then, because that had been built. And of course we used to walk to school. Very few people had cars to get the kids to school. Everybody walked. Snow and everything, we never bothered at all. And as I say, the children went to Long Lane Playgroup because wasn't the nurseries that they are now, so we just went to playgroup a few days, It was just great. And then they went to Etchells, and my grandchildren went to Etchells. The planes have never bothered us because we've grown up with them, and you have to say, well, things do change. And it was great going up to the airport by bike, which I think is about 3.5 miles from Bradford Hall Lane, and we used to just stand and watch the planes through a little wire fence, that was all. And it was really good.
Well, let's talk about Bradford Hall Lane that you were talking to me about.
Yeah, it was just a nice community, and then it grew, but everybody from there, all the children, they're all our age because they're all just born after the war, this was it. We'd all come across to Etchells. I think we used to have a lollipop lady for some of the time, Mrs. Watchall. All our friends are on Bradford Hall Estate, and it's strange because my best friend now lived in the house next to the school, and we only became friends at 15 when we joined St Catherine's Youth Club, and we just, 60 years later, we're fine, this is it. But we had fields in front of us, fields by the side of us, fields behind us, and then gradually, of course, everything was built up. We had the farm at the top of the road, Richardson's, where they had 2 daughters and a son. Eve Richardson she's on a photograph, a school photograph, because she was in the hockey team with us. And we just, kind of used to get the milk from there. He used to come round with a horse and cart and deliver the milk, or if you ran out, you just go knock on the door, and get milk.
Was that Apple Tree Farm?
No, it was Bradford Hall Farm.
Oh, Bradford Hall Farm.
Bradford Hall. And then, of course, you had the MU61, was it? And the lorries and things used to come down Bradford Hall Lane to get there. They'd go up to the farm, turn right, and that's the way in. And some of the wagons were so big and heavy and things like that. And I don't know, I remember one day a crane hit a tree and the branch fell down and hit a child, but fortunately they weren't too injured, And so we got used to that as well, going up and down. And as I say, we used to just go wandering off in the fields, and no restrictions at all. Hillary Avenue wasn't there, I didn't realise that Outwood Road and places like that were so close to it there, you see. But if you think of directions, it is, this is it. And as I say, so no, I never played up there. None of my friends did either, this was it. But we climbed trees, never thought anything of it, no health and safety in those days, And it was, and as I say, my mum worked at Cheadle Royal, and she'd be working part of the day, and the neighbours would be keeping an eye out for us and things like that, which she did in those days, and it was really good. And
so shopping-wise, did you just use Wilmslow Road shops?
Yes, yeah, unless, we did sometimes go to Mrs Finnegan's near the Catholic Church, the shops there, because I think she had haberdashery or something like that, so some things you couldn't get here, but we had everything we needed, there was a bank, off-licensed chemist, and then there was, when I was 15, I got a job in where the shoe shop, on your photograph is a shoe shop, that was Hames's cake shop. So we had Sayers across the road, Hames. So I got a job in Hames when I was 15. Right. Oh, and it was great, free cakes. But it was a wonderful life, and my friends who lived in Gorton and places like that, but they came over in the Manstroverspill people, in Hill Green and Handforth. Their lives were completely different to mine. I just cannot believe, when they lived, 8 floors up in a flat and no gardens, and I just think what a wonderful life we had on Bradford. We were just very lucky.
Well, it was just like living in the countryside.
It was really, really good. And so we had a stream at the bottom of the hill, and we'd, kind of paddle in there and what have you. But no, it was a fantastic life we had. This was it. And we used to be able to, when we were maybe 11, 12. We'd end up going ice skating to the other side of Manchester, just jump on the bus here, change buses in Manchester, no hassle at all, and no, it was good. I can't remember the first time I went on the train in Hill Green. No, I didn't, because we had the buses here, you see, that take us into Manchester, and there was no, it was so easy, this is it. My dad had a car because of his job, and what have you. Trying to think, when we used to go down to my grandma's in Wales, we used to go from central Manchester, and so I presume we went by bus to get into Manchester, Central Station in Manchester. When I left school at 18, I loved maths, and I took a job in, applied to go in the bank, and it was a district bank in Manchester, and it was a foreign department, and I just had to sit an exam, and mainly with mental arithmetic, and that was my thing. So got in there, working with girls who had 12 GCSEs and I didn't, but didn't matter, and had a fantastic 2 years there, 3 years there, and then my sister worked at Hertz Rent-A-Car at the airport, and she said, so-and-so's leaving, do you fancy doing it? Oh yeah, glamorous at the airport, uniform, car. So when I was 21, I moved to Hertz Rent-A-Car and loved every minute. But when I got married, I lived in Glossop, it was easy to get a train from Glossop into Manchester and work in there, and did that worked for Hertz for 9 years. Got made redundant then because I moved from the actual hiring out the cars to the office, sorting out where the cars were all over, from Carlisle down to the outskirts of London. My job was finding where they all were, and that was fantastic. I loved every minute of it, like I did in the bank. Then they decided that there wasn't enough work in London then, so they took all the work back into London, and I got made redundant a week before Christmas, and then I got pregnant almost straight away, and Susan was born the following September, and I didn't work for 11 years. Because it was childcare and things like that. It was all right going to nursery for a few mornings a week, but that, wasn't it, And then Michael was born nearly 2 years later, and then when Susan was 11, a friend of mine who worked at Cheadle Royal said, they're asking for somebody to come and work at Cheadle Royal in the offices. So I applied, and because my mother used to work there, the woman who was interviewing knew my mum, and so I got the job, and I worked there for 23 years.
Wow.
Loved every minute of it as well. And again, when I hear my friends, I had a terrible job, I left after a year, and I think, I was so lucky, I really had 3 jobs, and I loved every minute. And my brother was a builder. There was a hairdresser on the main road up here, next to the wine shop. It was at the time now, next to Tubbs and Lou's almost. My brother had an office there, so I used to type all his estimates out and things like that, and I think I got about 50p an estimate in those days. And then, in the end, we got a gang of us, were cleaners then, cleaning out all the new properties, £1.50 an hour. And we had no water, no hot water, we used to have to boil. What a life. But it was wonderful, thoroughly enjoyed my life. Yes. I have, And my husband, he was from the Lake District when I met him. Well, he was working in Glossop, please, but he was from North Lakes, and he'd had a very similar childhood to me, which was good. This was it. He had all the freedom of up there, and I had all the freedom down here, and it was great. Thoroughly enjoyed it, yeah.
And your children still in Hill Green?
No, they moved out 3 years ago. My daughter and grandson lived here with me, and she decided she better get on the ladder, only because my mother-in-law in Penrith had to go into a home and sell her house. So my daughter's thinking, well, this might have to be sold if they have to go into an old people's home. So she thought, better get on the ladder now. So she moved, and she lives just as you're heading towards Brinnington, before the motorway. It's just a big estate there, which is, it's not, it sounds snobbish, doesn't it, there? But it's kind of quite nice. She's got a little 2-bedroom semi there with her son. My grandson now, he's 24, looking for a job. My son, he lives in Sale. They've got a 7-year-old. there was a big contrast between the two cousins, you know. But I say, a couple of weekends away, you know, when you went up to Derbyshire, did you go? Yeah.
Up into Derbyshire,
Yeah,
yes, yeah.
What do you call it? We went up to the lakes
You did.
and had us all there, and it's great. It was the first time all the parks had been together, I think, except two. And then my son now has superimposed them onto the photograph. And he's actually superimposed Grandma and Grandad in the corner as well, which I noticed, you know, so the whole lot of us there, you know. But it was just great. And I say, with Youth Club in Hill Green, we used to go, twice we went youth hosteling with the vicar, and it was wonderful, you know. And it was Mr. Lucas and Mr. Orme and Maureen. And then there was another gentleman as well, I don't know, his name was Mr. Cox or something, as you know, one time he came with us.
And that was with St Catherine's?
St Catherine's, yeah, and it was just wonderful, it was, honestly. All the youth hostels, and we had such good fun, and some of the photographs, I mean, I haven't got them, unfortunately, you know, when they were all bouncing on a log, and you knew they were going to go, and they did, you know, the log split, and no, it was great, and no, we had a good, really good community there with the youth club. It was, and everybody just got on so well. No fighting, nothing at all, you know. And as I say, we used to go to church on a Sunday morning, recreation ground in the afternoon, church in the evening, you know. I mean, I think I was a Sunday school teacher for a year, I think it was, upstairs in the church hall it was, you know. No, it was great. No, thoroughly enjoyed it.
And you were in the Brownies?
No, I was in the Brownies at Long Lane.
Long Lane.
But I don't think I didn't join St Catherine's Brownies. The guides, no, I didn't bother with the guides. I don't know why, I can't remember now. Maybe when they were going camping I just didn't fancy a bucket. Well, I started lectures, say, when I was just before I was 5. And I'm still seeing people now who joined when I was, you know, in Hill Green, when I was that age. And there was 7 classrooms when I came here. And I remember every teacher's names. You know, there was Miss Fowler, Mrs Jones, Mrs Stansfield, that's right. Miss Fowler, Mrs Stansfield, Mrs Jones, Mrs Evans, Mr Fell, Mrs Airy, and Mr Partington, who I think lasted probably longer than anybody else there. And it was say there were 7 classrooms, and there were 3 classrooms which were like almost like prefabs. They were, you know, and they were across the playground. And you kind of could go right through the whole lot to get to, you know, if the weather was bad or anything like that. And then in the middle of the 2 playgrounds there was the toilets, boys and girls, and cloakrooms at either end. And Miss Mayle, the headmistress, the office was here, and you hope never to go in there. I think I maybe made it twice, but luckily I never got the cane like other children did. My friend Mary down the road, she used to have a leg slap with a ruler by Mr Fell, I think she said it was, which I cannot imagine nowadays, you know. Maybe she should go do it for assault or something. But
I've heard about this Mr Fell.
Yeah. But I don't know, maybe I was a goody-goody at school because I didn't really get into trouble. And Mrs Evans, who taught us our tables, and she was very afraid of my mum because she was Welsh, like my mum was, so it had its advantages. But no, I mean, I just kind of loved going to school. I never thought, oh, I don't want to go to school, you know, like kids nowadays. I can't remember any bullying going on or anything. And as I say, we had the canteen, we stayed for dinners because my mum was working anyhow, so I couldn't go home. And it was just the normal school dinners, you know, which if you didn't like them, you weren't forced to eat them, fortunately. Was later on, you know, you hear stories the kids were told, you'll eat that or else you know. But no, I mean, if you didn't like it, just went home and had something at tea time then, you know, this was it. But, and on a Friday morning, the hall, which was really mainly the hall then before they split it into 2 classrooms, because it's got big dividing doors, the hall has. And every Friday morning, the whole school would go in the hall at 9 o'clock, and BBC radio had a service on, church service. Maybe it was on Friday morning, and we had Catherine Ferrier singing to us. I mean, you probably don't know Catherine Ferrier. She's an opera singer, you know. And that was kind of when you were going in, you could hear her singing, you know. And sometimes I think to myself, maybe that was our introduction to classical music in one way, you know, because you just had to listen to it, and then you just join in with the service. And I think most schools, it was done, we weren't the only school, it went to all schools, you know, and you'd be singing along, you know, and it was great, you know. We just had the normal lessons, but we all learnt to read and write, and although there was 40 in the class, and we're, as I say, like Anne said, the teacher was in front and you saw everybody. Nobody could get up to mischief. When it was icy, we used to make slides in the playgrounds. Nowadays they're not allowed to in case they hurt themselves.
You can't play conkers.
Can't play conkers, no. But we had a big field, of course, which is there now still, and we had sports days, and we weren't brought to school by car. I mean, kids nowadays just up the road coming in by car, whereas we used to just trudge in the snow, and just part of life. Yeah, some came from Handforth, but as I say, there was only a small Church of England school in Handforth, as far as I can remember, and that was the reason they brought, I don't know how many came down, but the house I'm living in now, before us, a family called Mottersheads lived here, and they used to live in Handforth, and their son used to come here, by bus. I think he was about 2 years older than us, same age as my sister. One of my best friends, she came from Handforth, down here. There was a builder on the corner of Bradford Hall Lane called Senior Builders. I checked this with my brother yesterday to make sure. And Senior Builders built 3 lots of semis on the left-hand side of Bradford Hall Lane, because there was nothing on the right-hand side except a few cottages that you ran in front of to get back onto Wilmslow Road. So these 6 houses were built, and then there was a gap for some reason, and I don't know why, and then he started building more houses, and the story was he carried on building without permission, and the council said, sorry, we'll take them off you. So then he built, there was 1, 2, 3, we were 51 and ours was the last one. All semis, and then ours was the last one. They were built as private houses. So we had bathrooms inside, downstairs, a toilet outside, a wash house, a coal house. Everybody then blocked in to make it almost like an inside toilet, this was it. Lovely big back gardens we had. Say that the rooms were big. We had even the box room, which now people say you can't even get a bed in. We could get 2 single beds and a little chest of drawers in between. It was so big, the bedrooms,
So no Hillary Avenue in front of you?
No Hillary Avenue in front of us, no. No houses on the right-hand side of Bradford Hall. It was, all fields, and it was really lovely, But of course, everything then gets different. And he built then, Senior built, must have filled in the gap with another 2 sets of semi-detached houses. We were 51, we were at the top of the hill, and then another builder came along and built 6 more houses, 3 sets of semis, but completely different to ours. And it was a shame, really, this was it. And then Branksome Drive, Bradgate Avenue was there when we were there, but not, you can see the difference in the houses there, where it changes. And then Branksome Drive was built, but again that was not right round meeting up again, to Mona Avenue and what have you. The fields and everything to play in, it was fantastic. There was an old district bank on the end of the shops next to Tubbs and Lou's. The first one was the district bank, which my brother bought then because they closed it down, and had it as offices then, and rented the room upstairs to students. Then the bungalows, I think, have been there. There was bungalows all the way up, because is it Clive Lloyd, the cricketer, lived in
there,
one?
yes.
Yeah, he lived in one. And then my brother decided to buy all the back gardens from the bungalows, and he bought one of the bungalows, next put one to the church, knocked it down, made a road through, and built 7 blocks of flats. My brother did that.
That was your brother, was it?
Yeah. The people on East Avenue complained because they were going to be backing onto them, but they didn't lose any gardens at all, they just lost kind of the bungalow gardens that were nice to look onto, We came to East Avenue Park to play. That's one of the school and the park really were the main things for coming over the road. And the park was great. We had proper tennis courts. We had 9 little holes of putting. And a bowling green, until the kids ruined it with the motorbikes and things like that. And then they moved then to Cheadle Royal, the bowling green at Cheadle Royal, I think, from here. And then we had the Maypole We had this like long boat you could sit on, you know, and then there was a big swing boat as well, and she called one a spider's web, which we called it, and a king's crown. Yeah, it just brought a lot of memories back reading. I sat here last night and read it all, you know.
Yeah.
And
there was a little parkman they used to...
Yes, parky. I think you'd pay sixpence to go and play putting or something like that, you know. And but it was great, you know, and proper tennis courts and all sorts. It was there, and it was really well looked after. You know, this is it. We had from Merwood. You've got kind of the bungalow. You can see the old bungalow that's there. You can see where the difference, you know, kind of, and all the bungalows on the right hand side. Of course, they weren't there. And I remember Queensway. We had Thornton Road. We had a girl come into the school here when she was about 9, I think, and she lived on this end of Thornton Road and Kirkham Road as well. We had another one. I think Pam came from Kirkham Road. So those must have been built when I was about 9 in the 50s. You know, they must have been built. But then, of course, gradually it got more and more up the road. Then, you know. Merwood has always been there, you know, this is it, because we had, you know, there used to be the second house on the left from the main road was Hewitt's the Taxis, that we all used to have for our weddings, you know, and Colin Hewitt was my age, he came to school here, was in my class here at school, you know, and Angela Hadlow, well, Hadlows were next but one to them, and she came here. I think her mother was a dinner lady here at one time, very stern lady she was, you know. And Angela was one of the few that passed to 11 plus. No, it was, as I say, we were going to live on Merwood before we moved here, but it was too busy, you know. But we've lived here now for 42 years, you know.
So, do you remember Cheadle Royal and the big chimney?
The laundry, yes.
You remember that?
Yeah,
See, I don't.
Yeah, but as I say, my mum was working there when we were young, you know, in the 50s it would be. Then when we were teenagers, you know, 15, 16, we used to have dances, and we used to go to the dances on a Tuesday night in the day hospital where my mum worked for a while. You didn't know whether you were dancing with a patient or a doctor sometimes. You know, you couldn't, because there was patients that were just in there because they'd had nervous breakdowns, and they were just like you and me. And when I worked there, you know, this chap said we used to go past every day to Moseley Hall, and we showed, there's the Nut House. He says, I never thought I'd be in here, he said, you know, but he just had too many shops, he couldn't cope, you know. And I said, I used to say, they're by the grace of God. Cheadle Royal, of course, we used to go down the road here, across the main road on Finney Lane, right into Cheadle Royal. We used to walk down with the school class did, you know, and there was the cows and everything. There was a chap called Charlie Chewson, I think his name was, a nurse, and a lot of old people were there just vegetating, and used to stick them all on the back of a wagon, you know, a flat back, and take them around the grounds and say, right, you can dig. And you know, it was great for them, you know, really good therapy for them. You know, now they're just, well, they have proper gyms now and things like that there, but no, in the old days, as we call them, it was really good. Yeah. My mum loved every minute she worked there until she retired. She was there for 20, 30 years. I think she got her gold watch after 25 years. Wow. I left after 23, so
you just missed out.
But I say, she loved every minute of it. I loved every minute of it, you know. And you know, you could go there and get vegetables and things like that, you know. And it was just like a small holding, you know. It
was like its own little community, wasn't it? Yeah. The farm, the dairy, the stables,
and almost every other person round here worked at Cheadle Royal. But now, of course, Cheadle Royal, it's just a business, and my daughter works there now. My mum worked there, I worked there, my daughter works there, but it's for convenience as well, you know, this is it. Every patient in Cheadle Royal is an NHS patient, believe it or not, you know, no private patients in Cheadle Royal now, there hasn't been for years, and so I used to have to make sure that the funding was coming from from Manchester Health Authority or Stockport Health Authority. That was my job. And then she came into, she liked to count, so somebody kind of moved out of account. She started off as a receptionist, and then somebody moved out, and she kind of got a job in Macclesfield, and then she moved back into here, took the job in Cheadle Royal. Then she was made redundant because they decided to move it all to Darlington, the accounts department. So I then, when I was off at all, she'd then cover my job when I was off. So I said to the big boss one day, I said, you should have made me redundant and kept Susan on, you know. So he said, oh, she got a job. So I said, yes. So anyhow, a few weeks later, I was talking to her and she said, oh, I wouldn't mind that. So I said to him, I said, well, make me redundant. Bring her back. In fact, she was only off for a couple of weeks, I think, in another job. So she got her redundancy when she left. Of course, then I was fortunate. I got redundancy. I was going to leave anyway, but you know, and she's been there ever since. And she works really, really hard. You know, this is it. Give her a due. And she just moved now into a different department, which is harder still. You know, but they can work from home, and so they end up bringing work home at weekends. Her and the girl she works with. Now at least they're giving them overtime, which is a good thing, you know. This is it. But at one time, it was just like a big family, you know. Even when I joined, it was just very, you know, you knew everybody. Everybody was from Hill Green nearly. Didn't get many travelling in distances, you know, as they do now. It was beautiful, the grounds, and all the crocuses used to come up on the drive every year. There was the main building, and then there was North House. And North House took a lot of patients from Manchester. And I think it was the patients they didn't want. And it was a place that you didn't like to go into, you know, this is it. So I used to have to go over there when patients were on, like, sections. I used to have to go over and see the secretaries. But I'd get out as quick as I could, you know, this is it. When I first started, we did have private patients in there. And there was, like, we had ladies and a set of twins. And I never knew really what they were in for, you know. I mean, a lot of it was... they would, you know, like people have babies, you know, and things like this, and just done small things in their lives, and then they just became institutionalised, and they never went out again, you know.
Did they do electric shock treatment down there?
Oh yes. My mother used to do it, and she'd say, the thing is, it muddles your brain up so much, she says, you can't remember why you're depressed. That's what my mother used to go with, you know. And I mean, I knew patients that would come out of it screaming and shouting and things like this, you know. But my mother reckoned it was good. I mean, you know, and I mean, I'm glad I didn't have to have it done, you know. But you know, you got some famous people coming in there, you know, and things like that. And then of course there was a place in Altrincham. The Priory in Altrincham that used to then, they took a lot of the private ones. But we used to have a lot of, one ward was really for nurses and doctors, you know, that had come in, you know, with depression and things like that. Gosh. So it was, you know, and I say the nurses were, you know, because I worked on days and what have you, and you met the nurses, and they were such a nice bunch, you know, and they were so caring, and they used to think, oh, if I got too old, yes, you could come and be my carer, you know, probably younger than me, you know, or even older, you know, but no, it was a great time, and it was okay, Cheadle, but then it gradually changed then, the management, you know, kind of people bought into it as managers and what have you, and it wasn't too bad then, but then when the Priory, I'm trying to think who had it before the Priory, but it went private then, you know, to that Priory, and it just all changed then, you know, it was very impersonal and what.
So although you're not on the actual flight path, the airport have helped you out then?
Yes, we got a grant for the secondary glazing, which I know a lot of people have taken it out, but, you know, we kept ours in because it's warmer as well, and I think we had about 6 rooms. All of the three bedrooms were secondary glazed, 2 rooms downstairs, and £52 it cost us, that's all. Wow. But it was a lot of years ago, so it would be, you know, but we were lucky, we just kind of got it on. I think it was people from Merwood this way could get it. I don't think Merwood got it, I'm not quite sure, but we were very fortunate, you know, having it.
It's a lot of glass to clean though, isn't it?
Yes, I know, you can tell.
You have to lift it out.